Ladies and gentlemen, isn't this a fabulous 4th of July here in Colorado Springs? And look at Pikes Peak. It is still there. Ladies and gentlemen, the director, the music director and conductor of the Colorado Springs Symphony, Christopher Wilkins.
Good evening. Welcome to our celebration, the Fabulous 4th, and to our commemoration of the Centennial of the writing of America the Beautiful by Catherine Lee Bates. As a conductor, I also want to make sure that we remember the composer of the very beautiful music that joined with her poetry to make that poem take flight and to be remembered for 100 years since its writing. The composer was Samuel Augustus Ward. I would like to welcome to the podium now a great patriot, a man who has given long years of public service to the city of Colorado Springs and to a sometime symphonic conductor, Vice Mayor Leon Young. Sir.
Thank you, Chris, for that warm introduction. Good afternoon to each of you, and welcome to the fabulous 4th of July celebration and the dedication of America the Beautiful Memorial as we mark the centennial of the writing of America's favorite song, as Catherine Lee Bates wrote 100 years ago this year. I would encourage you to take the time to reflect on the words of this favorite song that we all know so well. So please enjoy the Festivus. So now let me introduce one of our favorite state senators, Mary Ann Thibodeau, Master of Ceremony of this evening's dedication of America the Beautiful Centennial Memorial. Mrs. Thibodeau.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't this a delightful, cool evening to celebrate the 4th of July and hear our symphony this evening? I want to thank all of you for coming this evening. I'd like to begin this evening by telling you that this memorial that's here in front of you will be unveiled tonight in commemoration of the writing of America the Beautiful by our famous Catherine Lee Bates, who came to Colorado Springs and endeared to our city and our nation the song, America the Beautiful. Let me introduce to you now, first on our program, State Senator Mike Byrd, who's now serving in the Colorado Senate, is a candidate for governor of Colorado, who, when he was vice mayor and councilman, was the person who carried the resolution that made Colorado Springs the official America the Beautiful City. Please help me in welcoming Senator Mike Byrd to the podium.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Good evening, fellow citizens of Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs is truly the America the Beautiful City. We who live here have always known that, and it has been true informally for 100 years. But until 1981, the city had never taken any action to formally recognize this unique heritage tying together the city and the song. That is why, as Vice Mayor of Colorado Springs, preparing to leave office after 8 years on City Council, I wanted to provide a permanent recognition and reminder of the special link between our city and America's favorite poem and song. Thus, I introduced the following resolution, which, when it was adopted on March 10th, 1981, formally designated Colorado Springs as the America the Beautiful City. The resolution went as follows. Whereas our own Pikes Peak inspired the creation of the popular and beautiful song, America the Beautiful, and whereas the author, Dr. Catherine Lee Bates, was a visiting professor at Colorado College during the summer of 1893, whereas after her expedition to the summit of the peak by prairie wagon, she returned to the Antlers Hotel in downtown Colorado Springs to compose the immortal verse. And whereas the song was first published in 1895 and has been so popular that 3 national movements have been started over the years to make America the Beautiful our country's national anthem. And whereas it seems only fitting that the city of Colorado Springs incorporate the title of the song into official use to promote our Purple Mountain's majesty, now therefore it be resolved by the City Council of the City of Colorado Springs that the City of Colorado Springs incorporate the phrase, "The America the Beautiful City," into official use in order to enhance the image of our city. This was dated in Colorado Springs the 10th of March, 1981, signed by the Mayor, Robert Isaac. In conclusion, let's make sure that Colorado Springs lives up to its official title as the America the Beautiful City for the next 100 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Byrd. Because Colorado Springs is now honored to be the recipient of this beautiful memorial recognizing America the Beautiful, and on behalf of the City of Colorado Springs, I'd like to have us welcome now Councilwoman Mary Lou Makepeace to accept this memorial on behalf of the City of Colorado Springs. Councilwoman Makepeace.
And good evening. I'm here tonight on behalf of City Council and the City of Colorado Springs to accept this plaque commemorating America the Beautiful from Costas Ramboukas, which will be placed on the summit of Pikes Peak. Several months ago, in a conversation with Mr. Ramboukas, he told me that he wanted to show his love, he wanted to do something to show his love of Colorado Springs. Mr. Ramboukas is an immigrant to this country and to Colorado Springs. And if you talk to him about coming here, you'll find that he arrived here with only a few dollars to his name and no job. And since then, his tenacity, his perseverance, his hard work, and his love of this community have helped him become a successful citizen and businessman in this community. You may recall a few years ago that Mr. Ramboukas stepped forward and renovated the deteriorating gravesite of this city's founder, General William Jackson Palmer, in Evergreen Cemetery, and he did a magnificent job. Today, he is giving a gift to all citizens of Colorado Springs that will be enjoyed by all of us and all the visitors to the top of our famous mountain, Pikes Peak. We applaud him for this. Mr. Ramboukas, we appreciate your dedication, your perseverance, your hard work, and your love of this country and of Colorado Springs. I would now like to read the resolution accepting this plaque commemorating America the Beautiful from Costas Ramboukas. Whereas the year 1993 marks a very special event in the history of the United States of America and of the city of Colorado Springs, and whereas 1993 is the centennial of Catherine Lee Bates' America the Beautiful, sung by generations of Americans in the past 100 years, and whereas a trip to the summit of the 14,100-foot Pikes Peak inspired Catherine Lee Bates to write her world-famous lyrics in her room at the Antlers Hotel in downtown Colorado Springs. And whereas the city of Colorado Springs maintains and operates the Pikes Peak Highway, and all Americans have the opportunity to travel to the mountain summit to experience the majesty that inspired the song, and whereas a plaque commemorating the America the Beautiful Centennial has been donated to the community by Costas Ramboukas, a citizen of Colorado Springs, and whereas the plaque will be placed at the summit of Pikes Peak for all visitors to see, now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Colorado Springs that the plaque commemorating America the Beautiful from Costas Ramboukas is hereby accepted. And this resolution is signed by the Mayor and all members of City Council. Mr. Ramboukas? Pleasure. A real pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Makepeace. At this time, I'd like to alert you to the fact, if you haven't already known, that the plaque will be placed on the summit of Pikes Peak shortly after the ceremony and later on this month. But because it's going on the peak, we have another special person I like to recognize, and that is Mr. Jim Montoya, who is the Senior Ranger for the United States Forest Service and the Pike National Forest, who is here to accept the plaque on behalf of the United States Forest Service and the state of Colorado. Mr. Montoya?
Thank you very much. As the Native Americans, as the Spanish conquistadores, as Zebulon Pike, and so many others since him, saw the ascent of the massive mountain of Pikes Peak rising from the horizon as they ventured westward. Even so, Catherine Lee Bates saw this beautiful mountain that we call Pikes Peak and ventured to the top and was so inspired by God to write this beautiful poem that we call America the Beautiful. Even so, we too are here and are likewise moved by his beautiful creation. On behalf of the United States Department of Agriculture, Forest Service, the Rocky Mountain region, and the Pike and San Isabel, I humbly accept the America the Beautiful plaque in partnership with the city of Colorado Springs. Upon placement of this plaque on the 14,110-foot summit of Pikes Peak on the Pike National Forest, thousands upon thousands of people of every kindred, tongue, nation will have an opportunity to visit the site where Catherine Lee Bates was thus inspired. They too will experience the purple mountain majesty of the Rocky Mountains, adding to and enhancing the experience of our National Forest visitors who visit our 121 million acres each year. We thank our good friend, Mr. Costa Rambocas, the Shrine of Remembrance, for adding new meaning for our visitors to the Pikes Peak region. America, God has truly shed his grace upon thee. Thank you very much.
Did you hear someone say they liked your suit? Thank you very much, Mr. Montoya. Goodness, the breezy is breezing tonight. Everyone on stage here, some will speak and some will not be speaking to you tonight, but nevertheless, I'd like to introduce them to you and have them stand and be recognized after their introduction. We have with us tonight, straight from Washington, D.C., Senator from Colorado, Hank Brown, who will, you bet. I'll introduce Hank a little more thoroughly to you in just a little while. We also have Councilwoman Lisa Are. We have former City Councilman David White, and representing United States Congressman Joel Heffley, Mrs. Connie Solomon. Would you please stand and let us recognize you? Thank you. I'd also like to thank, on behalf of the group tonight, I'd like to thank the Executive Director of the Colorado Springs Symphony for working with us on this dedication, Mr. Daniel Hart, and I'd also like to thank Mr. Jim Ricks, who opened the program tonight, who really is instrumental in putting this all together and getting all of these people here at the same time, at the same place, and that, Mr. Ricks, is an accomplishment in itself. I'd also like now to introduce one of the important people on the podium tonight. He's been here just briefly to stand. But without him, we would not have this beautiful bronze memorial that you're going to see in a little while. He is instrumental in, he is the person who has donated this memorial to Colorado Springs. As mentioned, he is an immigrant from Greece. He is president of the Shrine of Remembrance, and he's very active in our community, and we all thank him from the bottom of our heart for his generosity in coming forward with this amazing piece of artwork that you'll see in a little while. Please help me to recognize Mr. Kostas Rambokos.
I have just received a letter from the White House, Washington, D.C., and I'd like to share this with you. Greetings to everyone attending the Centennial of the Writing of America the Beautiful on this Independence Day, 1993. On this day, we celebrate both the birth of the fairest and greatest democracy of the modern era and the 100th anniversary of one of its favorite anthems, America the Beautiful. The ideals embodied by the Declaration of Independence and by this song have served as a guide for our nation and as an inspiration for our people. We should on this day also be justly proud of the influence that our beliefs have had on the world. But the mission of America is far from complete. While the world is filled with opportunity, it is rife with uncertainty. We must dedicate ourselves to carrying on the dreams of the founders and adding our own chapter to the unfinished American autobiography. By embracing the changes that are altering the landscape of the world today, we help ensure a brighter, more democratic, and more peaceful world. On this Independence Day, I encourage all Americans to rededicate themselves to the conviction that our heroic journey must go forever upward. Best wishes to everyone on this wonderful day. Signed, Bill Clinton. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kostas, and for the letter from our president. Now to tell us the story of the writing of America the Beautiful, we are pleased to present Chief Master Sergeant Fred Correll, who we all know as the voice of the United States Air Force Academy Band. Now, the band's name was recently changed to the United States Air Force Band of the Rocky Mountains. It may have changed its name, but it is still the great organization that we know. And representing the band this evening with a musical narration is Chief Master Sergeant Fred Correll.
As we commemorate the 100th anniversary of the writing of America the Beautiful this year, it seems only fitting to look back to earlier times when Pikes Peak had not yet been discovered. Colorado's most famous landmark and the place where the words to America the Beautiful took wing has an interesting history. In mid-July of 1806, Zebulon Pike and 22 men traveling under his command left Fort Bellefontaine above St. Louis. 4 months later, Pike saw through his spyglass what appeared to be a small blue cloud. Further travel revealed the sight of a mountain which Pike referred to in his journals as the Grand Peak. Eventually, Pike reached the present site of Pueblo, where he and 3 other men then struck out for this Grand Peak, now believed to be but a few hours' distance. After traveling 3 more days, Pike reluctantly gave up his newborn plan to scale the peak, stating that it would have taken a whole day's march to have arrived at its base, when I believe no human being could have ascended to its pinnacle. 14 years after Pike's journey, another explorer, Major Stephen Long, arrived at the Front Range of the Rockies during the month of June. Unhampered by poor weather, Edwin James, the party's naturalist, and 3 other men climbed to the summit of the Grand Peak in 2 days. To honor James' accomplishment, Long decided the peak should bear his name, concluding, "Pike has indeed given us notice that there is such a peak, but he only saw it at a distance." It was left to John Charles Fremont, who explored the Rockies in 1843, to label the landmark Pikes Peak in his journals and on his maps. There were many changes in the region in the years to come. In 1871, Colorado Springs became a city under the guidance of its founder, William Jackson Palmer. And in 1876, Colorado became the 38th state. Colorado Springs was enjoying a busy summer in 1893. The Columbian Exposition in Chicago was stimulating tourist business, and many World's Fair travelers extended their tickets to the Pikes Peak region. Colorado College was planning a very ambitious summer session of lectures, and the faculty list scintillated with the names of some of the best-known educators in America. It was during that summer that Catherine Lee Bates made the most famous excursion up Pikes Peak since Zebulon Pike's initial journey of discovery in 1806. Born in Falmouth, Massachusetts, into a family of a congregational minister on August 12, 1859, Catherine Lee Bates graduated from Wellesley College in 1880. After teaching high school for 6 years, she returned to Wellesley and eventually became head of the English department. During her long professional career, Miss Bates became widely acclaimed for her many books and her poetry. In the summer of 1893, Miss Bates headed west, joining other famous educators to teach a summer session at Colorado College. She recorded the following events in her journal. On my way to Colorado, I visited the Columbian Exposition of the World's Fair that ran for several years in Chicago. On the site of this exposition, magnificent buildings were erected. The expression "alabaster cities" was the direct result of this visit. It made such a strong appeal to my patriotic feelings that it was in no small degree responsible for at least the last stanza. It was my desire to compare the unusual beauty of God's nature in this country with the distinctive spectacles created by man. I was extremely tired and a little homesick upon reaching Colorado Springs, but was determined to miss nothing in this surprising community. I was eagerly looking forward to the expedition to the top of Pikes Peak, which the summer faculty had planned as a grand finale. The trip was scheduled for July 22 by carriage. We rode in a prairie wagon with the words "Pikes Peak or Bust" painted on the back. The mules tugged our cumbrous chariot up and up through a waste of dead white stems, a ghostly forest, until the awful abode of the ancient Manitou, the peak that young Lieutenant Pike had seen but never trod, was attained. We were all eager to jump out, but were warned by our mentor that we must descend leisurely. An erect, decorous group, we stood at last on that gate of heaven's summit, hallowed by the worship of perished races, and gazed in wordless rapture over the far expanse of mountain ranges and sea-like sweep of plain. It was then and there that the opening lines of America the Beautiful sprang into being. It was my impression that I wrote out the entire song on my return that evening to Colorado Springs. At all events, the 4 stanzas were penciled in the notebook that I brought back to Wellesley. The accumulated impressions of the entire trip had culminated into one poem. The alabaster cities, the plains of Kansas, the waving grain, and now the purple majesty of America's most famous mountain. I do not remember paying heed to these verses, she writes, until the second summer following, when I copied them out and sent them to the Congregationalist, where they first appeared in print July 4, 1895. The hymn attracted an unexpected amount of attention. Because of its popularity, I rewrote it, trying to make the phraseology more simple and direct. The new form first appeared in the Evening Transcript of Boston, November 19, 1904. Over 100 composers asked permission to put her words to music. Bates politely considered each offering, finally choosing Samuel Augustus Ward's hymn tune, Materna, as a perfect musical fit for her poem. In 1912, permission from the composer's widow made it possible to join this tune with Catherine Lee Bates' text, a union it has enjoyed to the present. The hymn in its present form attained widespread popularity for the first time during World War I, and it did much to foster patriotic pride and loyalty among our people. Miss Bates once said that this hymn has gained in less than 20 years such a hold as it has upon our people is clearly due to the fact that Americans are at heart idealists with a fundamental faith in human brotherhood. Catherine Lee Bates died on March 29, 1929, just 2 years before the Star-Spangled Banner edged out her America the Beautiful as the official national anthem. During this year, when we commemorate the centennial of the writing of America the Beautiful, a mighty tribute prevails, one that fulfills a dream. Miss Bates once confided to a friend that she hoped to write a great poem, a poem that people will read long after I am dead, a poem that will always be remembered. Ladies and gentlemen, the words written by Catherine Lee Bates here in Colorado Springs 100 years ago in 1893 will ever ring out for us all, from sea to shining sea.
Thank you so very, very much, Sergeant Corral. It's my pleasure now, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce Senator Hank Brown, who's come to us, I believe, from Washington today. Senator Brown will help unveil the monument that you will be seeing in a few moments that will be the official national dedication of the memorial that dedicated to Catherine Lee Bates for her poem, and now our song. Senator Brown has been a representative in the United States Senate since 1990, and prior to that, he was a United States Congressman from Colorado. He has served in the United States Navy, is a resident of Greeley, and we are so very pleased and honored to have him join us here today for this dedication. Please help me give a warm welcome to Senator Hank Brown.
Thank you. We come today not simply to dedicate a plaque, or perhaps even to remember the lyrics of one of America's greatest poets. We come for something much more important than that, and much more personal. Each of us comes to dedicate within ourselves, in our hearts and our minds, to the principles that inspired those words and inspired such a great country. Inside the halls of Congress, in the rotunda, are 8 great paintings. One of them is particularly my favorite. It is a painting of George Washington. The war is finished, and he's come to the Congress assembled in Annapolis, Maryland. And Washington's been asked to become America's new king. The British king has been displaced, the British defeated, and the Americans have turned to him and asked him to lead their country and take on the title of American king. And Washington's response is to turn down that offer and to resign his commission and to go home to serve as a citizen once again. America did not replace one king with another, but America did something much more fundamental. It replaced a government centered in the hands of a few with a government centered with its heart and its mind and its spirit in the hands of the many. America was unique in the world and has inspired the rest of the world throughout the centuries. It's inspired them because it didn't place its trust in an institution or a man or a woman. It put its trust and its commitment and its power in the hands of the individual, of the citizens who make this country so great and strong. And those citizens have built a nation that's unrivaled in history, in power and beauty and in greatness. And the music that we honor today is a reflection of that spirit that has shed a light throughout the world, who shed a light of freedom and commitment. that the rest of the world not only follows but looks to for inspiration. So today, as we dedicate a plaque and a memorial, let us remember not only those who wrote it, but those who inspired it, and those who defend it, and those who love it. And let us dedicate all of ourselves to the freedom that inspired it.
Thank you, Senator. Is everybody about ready to see this plaque? All right, very good. Now what's going to happen now is we're all going to leave the stage and we're going to go take our seats. We're going to let the orchestra warm up because it's going to be most fitting that the unveiling of the plaque will occur with the orchestra in their performance for you of America the Beautiful. But before I say goodnight to you now, I want you all to give yourself a rounding applause for coming out on this beautiful evening and celebrating with us America the Beautiful, written atop our own Pikes Peak.
A piece of American history is now officially, permanently marked at the top of Pikes Peak.
As the Ford Carson Band played the song, the crowd took in the same view that inspired America the Beautiful. Today, a monument to the song was dedicated. It was 100 years ago this summer that Catherine Lee Bates penned the words after she made a trip to the summit of Pikes Peak. The bronze monument was donated by a Springs businessman and dedicated by community and political leaders from across the region.
13 for now.
We'll be back again tonight at 10. Good night.
In view, and looking out to the east above the fruited plain, that it certainly is clear where inspiration came from. And then from sea to shining sea, if you look one way, we look towards the Atlantic, the other way towards the Pacific. So clearly the inspiration was here, and fortune and timing just allowed her to come along. And now, on this occasion, we have this magnificent, will know that it was here that America's most beloved anthem was first conceived. 2 years ago, Mr. Kostas Ramboukas came upon the idea of honoring the centennial of the composer where Catherine Lee Bates stood 100 years ago. Let me make just a couple of comments about here from our various dignitaries who will speak briefly. The memorial is very interesting in its design, as you will see. It is a mix of blends. The artwork portrays over 9,600 pounds. The central commemorative plaque, which is custom designed bronze, is some 850 pounds. The steel work that supports the new granite, it will endure virtually forever, for as long as people come to visit the summit of Pikes Peak. Let me at this time introduce a few of the dignitaries who are here with us today. George Goldberg. George, where are you? Would you please stand and be acknowledged? Thank you very much. There are a few other members from the military community I'll introduce at this time. We have one retired general officer here, Major General Larry Fortner, formerly with the Colorado Springs Space Command, now with the Air Force. And one other introduction before our speakers, the man who really made all of this possible through his thoughtfulness and inspiration, Mr. Kostas Ramboukas. Kostas, would you please stand, be recognized, and receive the appreciation of all those who really congratulate you for a truly inspirational idea and tremendous effort and perseverance to bring this project to fruition. And next on our program, you're going to hear from Colorado Springs City Council has accepted, with the support of the United States Forest Service, the Dunley to recognize the centennial of the writing of America the Beautiful, that we thank all the volunteers' efforts in the community of Colorado Springs who are hosting the many events for this centennial, and that we further encourage the people of Colorado to commemorate the centennial of the writing of magazine, the Journal of Colorado Heritage, a few years ago. And Frank, I especially want to thank you and ask you to stand and be recognized. Frank Tucker, history professor at Colorado College. The next item that we are going to have in our ceremony today
and is now a state. Catherine Lee Bates is born 1859, Falmouth, Massachusetts. This is also the flag at Fort Sumter when the Civil War starts. Does she remember and write these words? America, America, God mend thy every flaw. Confirm thy soul in self-control. Thy liberty is law. $35 gold stars for the Union cavalry in that war used gold stars on their flag. Could this have been the meaning of the words from the third stanza of her verse? Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. At seas beyond the sea, thine alabaster city gleams, undimmed by human. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty, above thy fruited plains. Our nation is ocean to ocean. In 1912, for New Mexico and Arizona are the last two territories to become states. 48 stars on the flag. And there's Catherine Lee Bates' dream become a reality. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Catherine Lee Bates, the flags of her lifetime.
Thank you very much, Major Jim Coakley, for those inspiring words. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce an old friend.
Country. This mountain which should draw our attention to the heritage of our country. The mountain can remind us that we are a nation blessed by God. So
Highway, he's worked for a long time with Conquest, and he's done all the work on the Forest Service side to bring this, our part of this, that's happening here today, together.
1993 has been a year in which we have celebrated the Centennial of America the Beautiful, the writing of the poem by Catherine Lee Bates. And I was attending a meeting this last month at convention visitors here in the early 1930s on all ranger stations. And today, after Parks and Centennial National Forest and the Pikes Peak Ranger District, I would like to make this presentation to you, presented to the city of Colorado Springs, that represents not only the city council, the mayor, the vice mayor, city administration, directorship, but all the employees of the city of Colorado Springs that have contributed to excellence on Pikes Peak. This included the acquiring of the special use permit for the Pikes Peak Highway, and includes also the accomplishment of the Pikes Peak. This is the first ever Pikes Peak Highway Recreation Corridor Master Plan. And with that, I'd like to make this presentation to Jack Weinstein. Likewise, this is a door knocker that's opening the door unto the future, future relationships with our partners, with our many friends. And this is presented to Mr. Costa Bambocas and family, the Shrine of Remembrance, and all your staff for excellent, significant contribution to Pikes Peak. This plaque contributing to the tree planting on Pikes Peak and erosion control. On behalf of the Pikes Peak Ranger District, the Pikes and Isabel National Forest, and Mr. Jack Weising, we present this plaque to you. Thank you very much. As I said, I'd like to also thank, as 200 years, many poets and authors and patriots have given us words that attempt to capture and celebrate the spirit that is America. But perhaps no one has captured that spirit like Catherine Lee Bates did here on this spot 100 years ago. Her anthem gave breath to America's promise, to the boundless sense of opportunity that sets this country apart from any other experiment on earth. Much more than the inspiration of a beautiful, breathtaking vista, but a feeling that all things are possible when freedom reigns. So it's fitting that here 100 years later we commemorate her gift with this lasting tribute. It too is a gift to America, made possible by an individual who recognized the promise.
See, 1, 2, 3, and we all do it together.
and gentlemen, it truly is a magnificent...
Okay.
Pretty moving ceremony. What do you think about all that?
I thought it was great. We wanted to come and see this because we thought it was a very special occasion. 100 years. It's not going to happen again for another 100, so...
Okay, thank you very much. How about you? What did you think of all that?
It was cool.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay. For a man who's serving his country, what do you think about your country being recognized like this?
I'm very proud. I think it's a beautiful memorial, and I'm very, very proud. I think it should be the national anthem. I'm all for it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
How's that? Maybe on the other side of the...
No, this side's going to be better because it's a slide.
Okay. We'll get some slides. Go.